Good morning, mate. How are you?
Good morning, Mika. Very well, thank you. You're looking splendid.
Thank you very much. So are you, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. It's 10 in the morning, but I feel good.
yeah.
Feels
Yeah,
nice.
I've got my this poster behind me is an old. It's the old bus stop
I noticed that.
rolling
Yeah.
sign. Yeah. So I thought it was appropriately my life story. Considering I wrote an album called Mornington Crescent, I thought I'd
Yes,
stick
you
it up
did.
there so that we've got a bit of context.
Context of the people and just for yourself. I appreciate that highly. I did notice that. I did want to clock, but I didn't want to say. But yeah. Anyways, now you mentioned that, just for the first quick little bit, if people don't know who are watching, please introduce yourself. That would be lovely.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name's Jake Shillingford, and I've been the lead singer and songwriter for a band called My Life Story that have really, started in 1986, believe it or not, and have gone
Okay.
through many incarnations ever since.
Beautiful. Didn't know it was 1986. That's a fault on my part. But like
I,
you said,
I
yeah.
don't talk about that bit. It's a bit like Prince in his first album. You know,
His
it's
first album was
like
great.
it didn't exist.
It was still good. He was very shy. He was a very shy teenager, but it was still great, even with the first few records. Before he got his chest hair out, he was still cracking. Beautiful hair. But yeah, like you said, you've been touring for some time, many incarnations. All of them have been splendid. I'm a fan of your music after being passed on through to me while I was growing up, so this is great for me too. You'll play a gig with us in February, I believe, at the Horn, which is, I didn't find enough wearing the shirt. That was absent-minded to put it on this morning, but we can ignore that. It's great to finally say that we can have a gig at some point. There's no dancing around it, and that's awesome. But obviously, like, the sound of your music is so grandiose and large. How does it feel to bring it to a venue that's so small, and how do you feel about like those venues in general, whether you're playing them or attending?
Yeah, well, I think that in a way, I mean, the idea of My Life Story, when we were sort of got to the stage where the songs were good enough and we were rehearsed enough, and I brought on, basically we were in the early 90s, I brought in a string quartet and a brass section purely out of bloody mindedness because, grunge and rave was all over top of the pops, and I wanted to do something very different. But also there was an additional thing to that, which was, we obviously wanted to try and get signed. We wanted to sign to a label and I wanted to have a career. And I just felt that if you could make your band sound almost uncomfortably too big for your environment, then record companies would have no other choice but to sign you and think, these boys need to be on a bigger stage, sort of. That was, I was ruthlessly ambitious in my sort of early 20s. So I think that had a part to play. Obviously, I love orchestral pop. For me, the marriage of strings and sort of guitars, going right back to sort of John Barry, sort of early film scores, and then through to sort of, even like, when brass comes in the 80s with Dexy's Midnight Runners and the Teardrop Explodes and all of that sort of stuff. That's all my heritage. But yeah, all of those bands, every time I saw them or I saw clips of them, they always looked larger than life. They felt like, you felt like you were carried away with the sort of majesty of it. And I think that, one of the things that I loved about the show we did with you, will be a calendar year, won't it?
It will be,
since I played with you and at the Horn, and the audience participation, I think, is really important. I think what you get with this sort of large sound is that it carries you away. And actually, since the days when, obviously in the 90s, when there was a lot more money around, sometimes we would have 17 people on stage in venues of that size, which was insane. But there's 5 of us on stage now. But what I really like, and particularly what happened at the Horn in February of this year, was that the crowd then starts singing the violin parts that are missing or the brass parts that are missing. So it becomes this sort of congregational environment. And you get this kind of like, it's quite interesting from the stage because, yes, you're right, you're in a small venue, but you're getting this sort of quadraphonic sound.
That's beautiful.
As long as everyone sings in tune, we're okay.
You're all right. They are. That must be such a feeling. Obviously, it must be great to have your words sang back to you, but for people to mimic instruments that aren't present, that's something else. I feel, to sing along with a PA, that's just beautiful.
Yeah, they
that's
do them
awesome.
They often have to, that thing.
So good.
It's like It's like bass face, when bass players polyphonic.
Yeah, it's like
when you're
distinct
more like
voice.
people have to play the violins while they're singing, to try and join the synapses together.
I love that. Are they good runs? Do you think? Are they okay? Would you let them pass, or they
They're
just
starting in the wrong position? Yeah.
the posture's not right, but you let them pass for that one time? I mean, like obviously, you can't not mention the orchestra with Life Story. It's such a key part. It sounds very British in the way that's done as well. There's something very such a weird thing to say. It sounds very British, but there's something when I hear it, I think, oh yeah, that sounds like a product of the time, but still kind of timeless and beautiful and far away, and I love it. But for your last EP, you recorded a full orchestra in Budapest, I believe, over Skype, or they recorded for you remotely.
Yeah.
And that was before everyone else had to do that. It's not cool anymore to do it because everyone else is kind of the norm now to record instruments or people separated, judging by recent events. Would you do that again? I'm wondering. Would you ever? Obviously, you might have to right now, but let's say in the future, would you ever want to do that again, or do you feel like you want to be there now in person? Is it essential, or could you just take the back seat and just watch it over Skype somehow?
Well, I mean, you raise an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, on the last album, we, orchestral sessions are quite complicated affairs, and the arrangement that goes into them, as you can imagine, is pretty detailed. We recorded. I mean, recording the strings in Budapest, the reason why we didn't go to the session was actually because we got an hour's window to record all the strings for our album.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we had to, just because of so you hire the strings for a period of time. And obviously, if you can keep that as tight as you can, then it doesn't run into thousands and thousands of pounds. But it is amazing. I mean, I'm learning about it all the time. But it was quite strange because when we used to record the strings on the first 3 albums throughout the 90s, I was present there with the strings, and there is no better feeling than as a songwriter than hearing your song sort of being born as these strings rise up around and envelop. They're like arms, they're like welcoming arms, of a mother sort of around the song. And it's an incredible feeling, and I'm sure you've read about many musicians that do that. It brings tears to your eyes. It's sort of it is a wonderful emotive moment. But then there's the practicality, and we decided to record them in Budapest. We got the we did it. When I say recording by Skype, we had a conductor who we could speak to via an earpiece. So if there's any things that we want that could be corrected, but he was kind of running the show, and obviously we'd scored all the stuff out, so I suppose it's like there's nothing much, you can't affect any change really by the time you've scored out the strings. They're there. It's a bit like inventing something. As you're inventing it, you can change it, but once it's been being manufactured, you can't sort of jump in and sort of stop it so much. You can just go or make it louder or make it a little bit quieter. But I mean, at that time, I would have very much liked to have gone over there and been there. But it is an interesting point. I mean, remote recording in general has been a challenge for a lot of songwriters. I mean, I write music for TV and film, as well as write for other artists now. This is a new thing that I do. Myself and My Life Story guitarist Nick Evans recently signed to Mute Song, part of the Mute Records label. So we're now on the same roster as like Nick Cave and Goldfrapp and
that's beautiful.
Members of Depeche Mode. Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity for us. But we're writing for other artists. Speaking to a lot of songwriters out there, the big problem is, the big question is, can you record over Zoom, over Skype, over some kind of interface? And the answer is still really no. There's delay, there's there's the sort of the barrier of not actually being in the same room and sort of riffing very quickly off each other. There's compression settings within. So like, as we're talking now on Zoom, if you say something, you might duck the compressor on my voice.
You out.
Might get louder. So the big debate at the moment is not necessarily like recording big sort of ambitious things like strings. It's just trying to write songs. And plenty of people have got a lot of time on their hands. A lot of musicians trying to write music at the moment, but collaborating is still quite difficult. So my prediction for sort of 2021, 22 is that you might get quite a lot of songs that are solo written songs, as opposed to collaborations, which I think is an interesting byproduct of what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, would that be an avenue for you to go not completely solo, but to venture more alone without like the sheer communication? Or do you think, would you rather wait, you'd feel? Because obviously the next few years will be an interesting subject matter, not just like this, like the sound of music, also just how the industry is going to model and develop. Would you sit it out, or would you want to venture into it too?
Well, I always do. I do that anyway. I mean, you don't call your band My Life Story without sort of
everyone's life story. Yeah,
you've got to. Yeah, I'm either going to write songs that are directly about me, or I do. If I don't have that mojo at the time, then I will just literally write about somebody I know and not tell them.
That's the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But or mix two people together. That's a good one. So so that can really confuse them. But I think that there is a beauty about, particularly lyrically. Just I will isolate myself anyway when I write lyrics, because I want something that's going to just kind of emit from me, really purely come out. And then what I tend to do is, once the song is fully written, I mean, it's funny because we live in an age now where people switch on a computer and then they write a song. And as much as I love production and all the stuff that comes with DAWs and the amazing advances in technology, I actually think that you should write a song and then switch on a computer. And what you find is you get quite a lot of musicians that have just written a verse. They go, listen to my verse, and it's this amazingly produced sort of 48-track verse, and it just stops, on the computer, and there's no chorus. So, what I like to do is write a song, keep it as pure as I can, and then play it to somebody who I really respect, either a producer or a band member, and get them to really, kick the can around and sort of be honest with me and tell me what they think of it. Because, it's so subjective, and you don't really know how good any of your songs. I mean, to give you an idea, nearly every My Life Story hit single I thought was a B-side, and the record company convinced me that it should be a single. So what do I know? So I think writing in isolation, I think, and then getting someone to help edit it, I think is a really good way forward.
Totally.
I mean, I think it's really interesting because lyrically at the moment, so many people are writing about these current times, and I think that it's interesting because I'm not quite sure whether people really want to hear about isolation.
This is the thing.
I mean, I don't know if you feel the same. I mean, if you think historically, how many songs were written during the Second World War, how many songs were actually written about the war and the terrors of war? How many songs were written about the World Trade Center falling to the ground and terrorism? Probably none, because there's so much information going on around you that actually you want escapism, you want a release. And there are some great songs that are coming out about these times and at the moment, but they do feel a little, well, I feel a little less sympathetic towards the lyrics of songs that are coming out.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the best songs were songs like It's Been a Long Time or We'll Meet Again, stuff like that, like these beautiful sort of
Vera Lynn stuff.
Like, or for 9/11, sometimes songs sound like they're about it, but they're not. Like, I think Jesus Etc. sounds like it's a lot like about 9/11 by Wilco, but it's not. It just happens to be that way, and they have to say, we don't want to talk about that. We didn't mean to. We're sorry. It's not wrong to feel that, but I feel like it's quite strange given how your last EP, World Citizen, was a lot about trying to find truth, even if you like that's a personal truth. There's a lot of thinking and delving, not so much, oh, here's who I love, here's my old flame, whatever. It's like, this is what we're surrounding ourselves. This is what's like around us. This is what we see. It's quite confrontational in many of themes.
Well, it's bizarrely prophetic in a way. Because obviously it's written before lockdown, and the idea of the concept of truth has completely changed. So,
Well, yeah,
one person's truth is another person's lie. I mean, that, the truth is the truth. It either happened or it didn't.
yeah. I mean, that's why I wanted to ask. That was like the crux of my question there. I was like, does it feel closer or further to you personally, at least at this point, from an artist point of view, from a personal point of view?
Well, I think as a songwriter, I like to write songs that don't really have a solution. They're almost a sort of a question, like what, it's kind of what do you think about this? And also, I genuinely believe as a songwriter, it's not my job to have the answers. I know that sounds like
you should make people. It's not horrible. I think good songwriters give answers, but great songwriters make you think about it too. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's the idea. I mean, I have my own sort of take on it, my own personal one, which, I will always give, which is that, for me, the album is about finding truth. What I found in my own personal life is that, a new person came into my life and she gave me a clearer understanding and perspective of exactly who I am. And was able to sort of hold up a mirror and allow me to see things that I hadn't seen before. And there's a sort of purity and a truth. The truth can be found really close to you, I think. And I think in this world of sort of conjecture and sort of propaganda, nobody really does know the truth.
Right.
Even if you look at a Facebook or a YouTube video and it looks like there's someone's doing a prank on someone, you can sort of tell that it's been set up now. I used to love things like that.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with laughing, but like,
someone sort of walking into a lamppost, is funny. I'm sorry, it is funny.
It is funny. It is funny. Even if it's staged, you can still laugh at it. Like,
but when it's staged,
it takes out the
So it's like, what is the truth around us, and then you sort of search into your heart, and you realize that a lot of people are being kind of manipulated by whatever they could be, corporations or political parties. And I think that ultimately it's up to us to investigate the truth, and with our loved ones and the people that are very close to us, it's important to form that bond and understand, that actually life is quite simple. We don't have to rely on all these channels that are going out across the world. We are truly global now, and the irony of World Citizen almost is that actually it's about be a global citizen, but in your own back garden. You don't have to kind of take in on all these all these influences that could distort what is really, life is quite simple, and lead it in a simple way.
I think that's beautiful. Like, I agree with that. Like life can be difficult, and sure, life is short, but also life can be easy, and life's a lot. You can do a lot with life. Life can be quite long. Sometimes some days drag, and that just happens. I mean, like, even before I hit record, like, we were briefly talking about like Alexa and technology, and you're like, oh, you said that propaganda was easy to spot, like bringing back World War II in the 40s. You can see a poster and be like, yeah, that's influence. But now it's like, you can chat to a small metallic circle that will turn your lights on and off in your house. It's strange. It's so bizarre. It can be fun. It can be pretty cool, but also it can be frightening, and it can be very like distracting and make you think you can't live without it. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
well, definitely. And of course, the other thing is that when you start getting confused by if you don't know if something's true or not, then you start getting paranoid.
Exactly.
And that is why we have paranoia around. Is because people they're not sure-footed. They don't know. They're not standing on a solid foundation where they kind of know who they are anymore. They're being told all these things, and it's interesting, isn't it, that there is. I mean, I didn't really get this until I was kind of around your age. I didn't realize that there's so many people out there that try to sort of push you off the wrong path.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're jealous or competitive, or they just don't, they see that you're doing all right and they don't want you to do very well, or they're just plain nasty, and you don't realize how many people out there have all these terrible anxieties, and And I'm sounding paranoid now.
There's
But
nothing wrong with that. It's human, isn't it?
mm,
Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, Britpop was really like that. It was,
yeah,
I wasn't really prepared. When Britpop came along, and we had been going for a short while before Britpop hit, and we got sort of caught up in that,
yeah,
for obvious reasons. I have an Essex accent. We wore suits and things like that. We look very much the part. In that world, but I wasn't prepared for the kind of this sort of petty-minded sort of bullying and sort of competition, and I thought we were all sort of like, hey,
yeah.
wow, it's hard enough just getting here. Do you know what I mean? We're making records, all these records sounding amazing. Let's all be friends. But I was a bit naive, I think. There was in that particular era. There was a lot of competitiveness, and it's funny because when I meet, I don't know, heroes of mine from the 80s, because of my generation, the 80s was the era I was growing up. You bands, I don't know, Spandau Ballet and Duran Duran, they may have been competitive on telly, but they're all down the
All
pub
friends,
after, so that confused me a bit. But so I suppose all of that sort of funneled through World Citizen, and it's interesting because I think it's what I tried to do with that record which is what I've never done on any other My Last 3 album before, was I wrote all those lyrics within the space of about 2 or 3 months. So normally with a record, you would write over, you'd write, oh, here's a song, here's another song, and over a 12-month period. What it is, I wrote all the music with sort of la 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 rough sort of sort of top lines, and then I just sat down and wrote a song so that it would sound sort of lyrically contemporary. So I'm really glad, because actually now the album lyrically still stands up, a year on. So I'm really pleased, and I think I'm going to continue to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, first off, yeah, it's great. Secondly, like, I wouldn't even known that you wrote it in that quick of a time span, because it's so like well done, well produced as well. Well, it's a fantastic effort. Yeah, worry about it, man. But yeah, I have one last quick question for you before I set you free into the world again for the rest of the day. Is there any new music you're into recently, like any like new and upcoming band you're really attracted to? A song, an album, artist, anything at all? I'd love to know.
Oh, that's a really easy one, actually, Mika, because I've just really, really into a new band. I think it's their second single. They're called Good Dog, and the song is called Hopeless Man. And ironically, actually, it's a song about these times. So while we've been slagging off these times, people writing songs.
You can't ignore these times.
It is about that, but it's an amazing song. It's got it's actually a brand new label. It's on a brand new label called Family Values, which has just been launched in Brighton, and in an office that's directly opposite my studio here in Brighton.
Fantastic!
And check out Good Dog and Hopeless Man. It's got a very sort of Harry Nilsson. You mentioned sort of British strings and sort of British sensibility. It's got that sort of historical British sound to it. Really great song.
Beautiful. Okay, Good Dog. Yeah.
Good Dog.
On that. I'll check it out. Good Dog. Beautiful. Right, Jake, thank you very much for today. This has been fantastic. Any other quick little tidbits you want to throw out there, or
just can't wait to really come up and get up and see you lot and play again and get everybody singing again.
Beautiful. Right, mate. Hope you have a good day, good morning, whatever it is you do, and I'll hopefully see you around whenever that may be.
All the best.
Thank you very much, mate. Take care. Cheers,
Bye.
man. Bye.